So there's one question I get a lot, and that is, why am I now anxiously attached when I didn't used to be? Or I never thought I was, or I didn't have these patterns before. And there's actually some really great explanations for why you are. And it's important that you understand what they are because you can make decisions differently moving forward if you have a good understanding of this. If you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson, and what I do with my clients is a combination of hypnotherapy, mind coaching, relationship coaching, attachment style coaching, so that we can blend all of that together and get to the heart of what's driving your unwanted behaviors and your unwanted feelings, and we can address it at the root, which is the subconscious level. So, if you'd like to learn more, you can check out the link in the description below, where you can set up a completely complimentary consultation call so that you and I can chat and we can get to the heart of what's going on with you, because everyone's situation is unique to them and their programming. And that way I can make my best recommendation. So you'll want to check that out. And also, if you appreciate this content, I really appreciate it when you can click like and subscribe so you can be notified every time I post a new video. So let's talk about why you are now anxiously attached if you didn't think you were in the past. There are a couple of things. Now, first, I want to talk about why you could be more susceptible to being with a dismissive avoidant if you were in something very toxic or narcissistic. And here's why. Because if you were in a marriage or a very long-term relationship with someone who was actually on the narcissistic spectrum, then you have been continually bombarded with so much chaos, right? They pick fights over nothing, out of nowhere, unexpected. Anytime you say anything that doesn't align with their thoughts or beliefs on anything, even inconsequential things, they will criticize you about it or pick a fight about it. They have ignored you in so many ways. And so you're just kind of used to this constant up and down roller coaster of chaos, and you're exhausted, and all you want is peace. Hundreds of clients I've had, and when they are the clients that have come out of this kind of dynamic, they almost always tell me what they really want is just to feel peace. They aren't even dreaming about feeling alive and connected in other ways in their life. They just want peace. And so when you just want peace, the dismissive avoidant feels like peace, especially in the beginning. Because in the beginning, they are very affectionate and very sort of love bomb-ish, but not in the way that a narcissist is. So they're giving you lots of time and attention, and they are really excited about you. And you feel like, oh, finally, like this person is great, because also not only are they, excited about me, but they're also, I can see it in them. They're good. They're a good person. And we're talking about the ethical dismissive avoidant here. And you can see it because they kind of lean on acts of service. They do nice things for you. They're thoughtful. They listen to what you say, and they pick up on the nuances that are usually glossed over and ignored by someone who's narcissistic. And so you feel seen, and you feel like this is genuine and this is a good person, and they're providing you with so much calm because they don't show any emotion. They don't really have any instability that's visible to you. It finally feels like peace and calm. And the tricky part about that is that you are craving that so much that you go after it. So if you're starved for something, it's going to taste even better when you get it. And it's kind of the same way if that's the dynamic for you. You get this calm and you give them a lot more credit than they actually deserve, because they are giving you a sense of peace and calm. And it doesn't stay that way if you've ever been with a dismissive avoidant for too long. 5 or 6 months, you start to see the cracks forming and the ghosting or pulling away. And even long term, you find the fault finding, and that they really aren't capable of sharing their needs and feelings with you in a healthy way. Now, the other scenario is that, and keep in mind, even in the one I just talked about, wherever you start from, your attachment style is sort of a sliding scale. And you can be pushed one direction or the other with long-term exposure to someone that's very opposite on that scale. And so the people you're with do affect where you're at with your attachment style, especially if you still have healing to do underneath. And so the other thing is, if you were previously with someone who was people pleaser avoidant. So if you had been in a marriage or a long-term relationship with someone who was kind and nice and, good person, kind of the ethical DA, but they actually had a little more emotional availability, maybe they felt their feelings a little more, but they didn't share much about their needs. They were detached from their needs, they suppressed their needs, they didn't communicate, or they couldn't slow down enough to spend really, like, connected time with you emotionally or intellectually or with depth. They were kind, they were doing nice things, that they were actually on the avoidance spectrum, but they didn't show up like the full-blown DA. Those people might have conditioned you to believe that you couldn't have connection, and you may have been a bit avoidant with them. When you're with someone like that, they don't actually push you to dig deep. They don't push you to really self-reflect and go deep with them because they aren't really requiring it of you. And so you could spend a long period of time without the depth that maybe you kind of wanted, but you just got accustomed to not going there or assuming that you had a big picture view of this person. And so it's an indication that you have had some avoidant tendencies as well with a partner like that you may have stayed with for a long time, because there was safety and comfort in the lack of growth and them just kind of going with the flow with what you wanted. There was no pushback. So you didn't have disagreements necessarily, but you also didn't have depth. So there was maybe even a flatness to the relationship. And that's an indication that that felt safe for you, that maybe you had some avoidant tendencies as well, whether they're fearful avoidant or dismissive avoidant, that you really didn't want to go there either. But over time, you come to a realization where you want something more, you want depth and connection. And so if you get together with a dismissive avoidant after that, there's a level of familiarity in that they're not going to push you for more connection or vulnerability or depth. And that can kind of make you susceptible to that choice. So there's kind of two ways to look at this. If you felt like you were secure in the past and you were with someone like that, you felt secure because things felt like they were flat. But that doesn't mean you were secure, because it doesn't mean you were doing the self-reflective work. It doesn't mean you were dialed into your own growth at that time in your life. And so whether you've been with a narcissist or with someone like that, those situations can kind of set you up for the dismissive avoidant connection and to become a little more anxious in that connection, because when the DA pulls away, all of a sudden this panic goes off inside of you. You thought everything was great. You thought this person adored you. And all of a sudden they are pulling back, pushing you away, and you're stuck with trying to navigate what that means, and they've taken away, the good feelings, and it's like a drug addiction. And so you become even more anxious, and you start to look at yourself and wonder, what did I do wrong? Why am I not good enough? And old wounds get triggered. So if you have old wounds, which are, of course, at the heart of our attachment style, the wounds of abandonment, the wounds of an absent or emotionally shut down parent, those show up in different ways. And that's where this anxiety comes from. If I can just fix me, then this person will stay connected to me. That's an old thought pattern from a child who thought, if I just behave well, if I just do everything this parent wants me to do, if I show up the way they want, they're going to love me. They're not going to leave me. They're not going to abandon me. I'm going to feel safe and supported. And so even if you felt like, oh, I'm secure now, or I have an understanding, that old wound from the past gets pulled up to the front when it's triggered in this situation because it hasn't been fully healed. And so there's sort of a myriad of reasons that you can be on the anxious attachment side of things. And you can be pushed there by the partners you choose. So it's really important that you do choose partners that aren't going to trigger this in you, that are willing to grow. And I always say there's a couple things, nobody's perfect, but there are two things that really, really matter. 2 to 3. I don't know how you want to count them. But first of all, in a partner, you need someone who is willing to be self-reflective, see the things in themselves that need work, to repair after conflict, and who is committed to a growth mindset for themselves and the relationship. The other factors that we also need, like attraction and chemistry, like those are great. They've got to be there. But it's not worth investing in it unless these 3 things are present. And so choosing who you're going to be with will determine where you're at on that sliding scale of attachment style. So I want to talk for just a minute about why this is not something that's easy to fix by just deciding to fix it consciously. Now, your subconscious mind is driving over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. And it is primarily programmed from birth to age 7. And then it can be affected through big trauma and complex trauma through the older years of our life, depending on the relationships we've had, the experiences we've had. And so it's actually quite protected. We don't have access to it very easily. And because we don't have access to it, we use our willpower to try to make a change. But our willpower is very weak and it gives up and it gets tired. And so then we find ourselves back in the same situation because we're fighting a very old program that has a lot of strength. It is running the show. And so to get to the heart of that programming, the hypnotherapy process is very important. It gets underneath the surface to the root of what's driving that unwanted behavior pattern and your attachment style. So becoming secure and becoming really centered in your own self-worth requires deep work, the subconscious work, which is what I do with my clients, so that then they can actually implement the coaching practices and teachings that will help them show up in the real world. If they try to implement them before the subconscious work has been done, they're fighting a battle inside themselves. And that is the main reason why you might feel like this is a struggle to address this issue. And you don't know what to do about it because you keep repeating the pattern and you don't know why you're doing it. But it's because the subconscious mind is running the show. So some things you can do is you can take more time when you're getting to know someone and consider that time like I'm collecting data. I'm gathering info here, and I'm not going to think ahead and project myself into a future with this person and start dreaming about what if and what could be. I'm not going to go there and get emotionally attached because I'm just collecting data. And you can start noticing, I have several other videos of how to spot a DA. You can start noticing with certain things they say so that you can avoid those things much more easily. But the best and most effective way is to do that subconscious work. And it's quite profound. Most of my clients say I did, more in 5 sessions with you than I did in 5 years of regular talk therapy. And that's because, and I like talk therapy, don't get me wrong, it's that talk therapy is using your conscious mind and it is not getting into the subconscious mind. And that is a game changer. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it helped you get a little clarity. And if you'd like to set up that consultation call, check out the link in the description below. All the details are there. And then very soon, my new program, Attachment Detox, will be fully launched and out and able for you to check out. So you'll want to watch for that. And again, for notifications on my new videos that I post, you'll want to click like and subscribe so you can be notified. And of course, until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.